started. Okay.
You said the magic words?
Yeah. Welcome, everyone. We got about 20 people or so here in the room. And what do we got? 10 online?
Oh, yeah.
So, I was kind of rounding up.
Okay.
All
right.
We fill out the national report. No, we don't fill out a national report. That was the other one. Okay, so welcome to the August meeting. Before we go any further, George, do you have a membership report tonight?
Yeah, we do. No new members the last 2 months. Well, in June, we had 2 members. Treasurer's report, we've got $9,460.64. Really no expenditures the last month. Guests tonight, we have Wesley Riley, related to somebody we all know over
You're
here.
related to me.
Jerry Boyer. Jerry, welcome.
Welcome.
And a blast out of the past, John Banky is back, and he'll be rejoining soon. Great,
Welcome.
welcome all.
So, and no treasurer's report, but we're okay.
Yeah, we had 9,460. There was no expenses at all last month.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Great. Yes, so it's ready to go.
Yep.
If I hit the go button. Oh, okay, so I put together a little PowerPoint presentation, or actually this is a PDF of the PowerPoint presentation. Last month when we were talking about empty bowls, I just kind of threw out an idea about having our own bowl-a-thon. Clay throwers, they get together and they have a bowl-a-thon, and maybe it'd be fun to do something like that here. So our minds are kind of working in 2 directions here. What do we do for 2022? And there's some possibilities there. Jim Andreessen got volunteered to pass a bunch of bowl blinds. Oh, do you have a show and tell item?
No, this is, oh, I wasn't, I was looking.
Okay.
We're talking about next month.
We're talking about having possibly a bowl-a-thon. So he has some segmented bowl blanks. He said he'd pass along. I have a few dry bowl blanks that I could bring. And then, of course, we'd open it up to have you bring those in. And then that would have to happen this month or earlier in September. And we'll continue to work on that. In the meantime, I've started thinking about 2023 and why do we think about 2023 right now? And I kind of had an idea. I put out a Facebook appeal. So I belong to this Facebook page called Keeping Eagle Rural. So there's a lot of people who live in the country around Eagle. And I thought, well, I'll just put out there that I'm looking for some logs, some fairly freshly cut logs that are suitable for making bowls. Well, I had the appeal up for less than 24 hours and I had to say, okay, I'm good for now. So it worked really well. So the first little trip, which was a week ago last Saturday, I went up and the guy's name is going to flip up here in a minute because he's a commercial guy. So the log there on the left is a maple log, roughly 8 feet long, and it's kind of a gnarly log, and you can even see it has some rot in it. But I think it'll make a bunch of good bowl blanks. And then he has a couple of black walnut shorts there on the right. Again, the longest one is about 3 feet long. The shortest one is about 2 feet long, but we'll be able to get some nice bowl blanks out of that for 2023. And that guy's name is up there on the screen, Tom Garibaldi. And if you guys are ever looking for wood, I would recommend you give this guy a call. He's up in the country between Wales and Dousman. And real nice guy, and he has an arrangement with 1 or 2 arborists, and they drop logs off and they cut them. So he had quite a bit of stuff up there, and he's kind enough to give me this. Then the gal that I go to church with saw that thing on Facebook, and her son gave me this log. It's cherry. You can see there it's between 12 and 13 inches in diameter, and it's about 10 feet long. And then this other gal, she contacted me on Facebook. She says, I got this. She didn't use the words highly valuable, black walnut log and, or tree. She said, I have this black walnut tree. You're welcome to have it. So my response to her, I mean, it's still out there if you don't believe me, is I quit cutting down trees on other people's property, which I have. There's a couple stories there, but I don't do that anymore. She came back, she said, oh, it's already horizontal. She said, I'll send you a picture of it. So she sent me this picture, which cleared things up immensely, right? It was horizontal, I can tell that. So I went up the next day, we took the farm all up for a road trip. Now, does that look like black walnut? That is red elm, but it is a big stinking red elm. It's about 20 inches across, and I think I have the end of the tape measure inside the bark there. So there are definitely some bull blanks in that rascal. I couldn't pick it, the bottom log was 9 feet 9 inches and as big around as you saw. And the farm could pick it up off the ground, but I couldn't get it up on the trailer. So that's my recently acquired woodworking tool. Everybody should, yes, right. I work for the company. So what would come next? Okay, some Saturday in August, I'd like to maybe process. We'll talk a little bit about what that looks like. So we need to process, we need to seal. If we're not going to turn right away, we need to rough turn, we need to seal, and we need to store it. So I have a tool that might help us process it as well. That blue thing is a little sawmill, but another woodworking tool that I acquired within the last couple of years. That is not my chainsaw, but I have one that looks a lot like that. That's what's required for processing. That is not my lathe, but it is a nice, pretty big lathe. I thought it'd be a good picture. The rough turn, the green turn, and then we need to seal them up. And then, may sound stupid, but I don't have a slide, but we have to find a place to put these things, you know, once they're got that all slimy, you know, from sealing them up. My space, I have some space, but it's a little bit limited. So I'm thinking about cutting either this Saturday or a week from Saturday. If any of you guys would like to be a part of that, feel free, let me know. I live out in East Troy. I have an East Troy address. I live between East Troy and Eagle, about half an hour away from here. So, and I'm serious, and you know, I really value some guys coming by and helping. And if you guys ever have a log you want cut up, or if you have one now that you want to volunteer or donate, feel free to bring it out. You can get it out to my place. I obviously can get it off your trailer or out of the back of your minivan. That might be tricky, but whatever, you know. You can always open things up a little bit, whatever. So that'd be for 2023. So we're still thinking about doing something yet for this year, and we'll let you know if we get some solid plans made.
Quick question, what kind of cutter is that?
The blue thing,
Yeah,
that's a sawmill.
so I mean, what's the dimensions, what's the biggest?
I can put a 30-inch log on it, but the widest it cuts between the guides, 26, I think 24 wide. But when you put a 30-inch log on it, you take a slab off, turn it, take a slab off. You do that 4 times, and then you have a cant, and you've got your boards off of it.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's do show and tell.
Okay.
All right. So what?
I'm
Okay.
a little shy here.
Yeah. Do you have something, Klaus, for show and tell? Well, one man show tonight. So this is not so much about the box as it is about the wood. I've got this wood from Hank Bardenhagen's family after he passed away. And it was with a bunch of other stuff that I bought. And this is, and I'm not going to pronounce this right, it's Mazur birch, M-A-S-U-R birch. And you can see what this actually is it's just all tiny bark inclusions that go all around it. And then, even where the bark inclusions aren't there, it's still kind of a pretty wood. So I had roughed this out a number of years ago and it sat on my workbench as I kind of started to develop a style that I like a little better than this. And I finally decided I needed to do something with it. And that's what I came up with. So.
Is that wood from around here?
No, that wood comes from Scandinavia. There may be somebody here that can help me. And you'll notice that the pith is still in the middle of it. This was a log about that big around, about that long. It was really curly on the outside and I looked at it and I thought, what on earth? And then when I started to turn it, I knew right away what it was. So, it breaks the pith and the little pith is in the middle of the turning as soon as I hang them together. Feel free to look at it. And then I think I got this wood off of the table. The cap is a piece of teak that my niece gave me that was on the raffle table. And I think this is vague memory. I mean, this is what happens after 4 or 5 years. And I think the person that put it on the raffle table came up to me afterwards and said, I think that's all right. Well, I started turning it. It's legume vitae is what it is.
Hold it up so I can zoom in on it.
Okay, it's legume vitae, and of course it clogged my sandpaper, but I wet sanded it with Howard's feeding wax, because that's what I have on the leg. You can wet sand it with any kind of an electronic. Okay. So that's what I have. Oh, Jim has a couple items. Great.
This is for the demo for next month. So I'm gonna do some of the icosahedrons. Start with this and come to a ball, and I'll do a couple other little techniques for doing spheres and balls. So, explaining. That's it, right?
And it doesn't look like we're gonna have a wood raffle again tonight. Jerry, are you ready?
I think so.
Okay. So Jerry has given our presentation tonight. Apparently he is the mastermind behind this large scale hand drill. And he's going to explain to us some of the processes they went through for making it, many of which you can tell relate to wood turning. So are you ready?
Yes.
Hey, Tony,
Yeah.
can I do the quick?
Sorry, yeah, Greg Richter. Greg Richter is trying to get the pen turning group going again, and Greg, you're on.
Okay, so it looks like there's enough interest to make this happen. What I'm hoping to do, depending on the wood turners and the Woodworkers Guild, is maybe have a meeting on the 18th of September, in-person meeting. That's a Sunday. The Packers play at 7:20 and the Badgers play the Saturday before. So you sports fans don't have to worry about that. I'm hoping to have a little Zoom meeting next Monday for people who are interested, just to see what you want to see, what you want to do. I mean, it's going to be our club, not my club. So, I'll send that information out. And Woodcraft now has pen kits for Turn for the Troops. Last year we did over 1,000, but one person contributed 700. And he's, for lack of a better term, retiring. So if you want to turn for the troops, you can start now. We don't have to do it all on Turn for the Troops Day. And Chris and Dina have the kits. I ask you to please let them know who you are and how many you take so we can kind of account for them in November. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thanks, Greg.
You bet.
for the floor? Or, there you go. All right, thank you. Can everybody hear me at home?
I can.
All right, very good, thank you. I wasn't sure if I was still hooked up or not. I can hear myself, that's about it. All right. We've already had a couple of glitches that we had to switch some cameras and some cables around. So we're doing pretty good so far tonight. We haven't had a bad part up problem here. I gave a presentation a couple months ago, it's just on general woodworking that I do at another club. And I was on the other end of those problems, waiting for them to get them fixed. It was delayed for 15 to 20 minutes before they figured out what was going on. So I've been asked to give a presentation on the big drill that you see up here. This is done for the Woodworkers Guild, which also meets down here on Thursdays. And what we do is we make these big items like this to take to the wood show when they have one. Because of COVID, it's been canceled so far, last 2 or 3 years. It's very similar to the big plane that you've seen back there. That was our first project. And then the big drill was the new one. And most of these things were inspired by our president of the club. I've been assigned to take the real tool home, tear it all apart, measure it, make all the drawings, and make all the templates. And I bring it back in, and the club members pick what they want to make and take it home and build it and bring it back, and we put it together and see if it works. Right? Yeah. This is supposed to work, right? It's not all assembled yet. It's just sort of sitting there right now in a couple of pieces. Right? But we plan to have it on a stand, and kids or moms or dads can come by and take the handle and actually turn it. And all the gears are working to turn the drill. And the drill bit. Right? This particular one was made by 5 members of the guild. And, my particular contribution was the small pinion gears, the large gear, and the chuck. Okay. And we had 4 or 5 other members, including Joe sitting up in the front here, that made the other 2 knobs on here. And it's all segmented to some degree. And then most of it, as you can see, is turned. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 flat pieces on here. Okay. So it's kind of perfect for this particular thing. When we made the plane, I think we had like 12 members, big pieces, because that's almost all flat. We don't have a lot of turners in the deal, so they shied away from doing this one. All right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to tell you how I made these 2 small pinion gears. Okay. First thing I thought I had to do after I looked at the drawing was I just made the rough shape. So this one right here, that rough shape in the pinion gear, after I build it up in the segments, right? And anybody could turn that one, that's on the lathe. Now I had to figure out how to put those gears in there. So I was going to do it on the lathe, but again, on the lathe. So I
At home, we can't see it.
Gary, we can't see you.
hold on.
There we go.
All right. Okay. We got it working now, no problem. Okay. So what we're going to do is, first thing I had to do is make an index plate for my lathe. All right. This is 15 holes in here. I made this on my new CNC machine. Right. And now it's as accurate as I can make it, trying to lay it out and center punch and drill. So that worked out pretty good. Then I had to make a rest on here that goes in the ways on the lathe. Over here, all right, and then a pin came in here for the index plate. All right, every time I went to a new gear, I'd index it. Okay, so those are the first 2 jigs. Then I came up with this idea here. Let's see what we got here. All right, let's go back to the slides for a second here. I may be talking over myself here. There, okay, those are the pieces there. And they're sitting on the lathe. There's this jig down that I'm looking at right here. Okay, so I had to make this to set on the ways. The piece is sitting inside here. like this, okay? This is at the angle that the gear is turned at. In order to put the teeth in there, all right, which is beveled to both sides, down the center, I had to make templates like this and use a template guide and a router that's mounted up here. All right, so this was cut out on the CNC machine, the whole, these were cut out on the CNC. So they fit in real nice. And there, this is cutting down the center of the tooth. This is cutting, excuse me, cutting a little deeper on the tooth. Okay. This one was for one bevel, for one of the bevels. Okay, and then I just flipped it over and turned the gear the other way to the other same bevel on the other side, the same gear, same tooth. So I had to do that 15 times for every 15 times times 4 for every tooth. Right now. There's the templates we were just talking about. There's sitting on the and there's where it's tilted now. Okay, this thing actually rotates at the angle that I want it at. Okay, there are 2 different angles. Okay, and those angles, for everybody's information, 17.8 degrees and 33.5 degrees. Right, they're sitting inside there now. There's the router sitting on there. So I just sit it on there, locked everything in place, and just ran the router down through the template guide and back. Okay. All right, so that's how I made the pinion here. Yes.
Not a wood turning question. What did you use for the router bit?
I just use a straight router, got a 1/4 inch router bit.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a regular gear tooth that's got a nice crown, bevel and a bevel. That's all I got. Yeah. I did go through it sanding and sanding down a little bit, but these aren't real accurate teeth, like you can see, because all I did was measure the real one, the real teeth and blow it up 6 times. Okay. So there's not a real close match like you would see on real teeth and real ears. Now, the next picture up here is the large here, this big guy here. Okay. Now, that was a little bit of a challenge because I was going to do that on my CNC machine. My lathe's not big enough to do that. Right? It's going the wrong direction to do on my lathe. Right? But the table on my CNC machine is only 12 by 12. That's a 20-inch diameter. So I experimented after I drew everything up in a 3D CAD program like Fusion 360. Okay. This was the very first one I did. The way I did this one, this is a segment. There's 8 segments for that big gear. Okay. So this is the first one I did on the CNC machine. I put one piece of wood in there and here, and I said, this is the top of the piece of wood. And then I cut this out. Okay. It's got halfway through here like this, and I flipped it, and then I cut this part out. Left it in there. Right? Then I took a piece of wood and glued it on top of here. Right? It went across here and across here. Come back and cut all of this wood out to get this. And then put the hole in it. The other piece of wood up here to cut this piece out. Cut this piece out. Cut around this. This was just glued on the paper in between it so it could be separated because I only had a 3-inch height. Also, okay. And this was on top, a piece of wood. I cut the first layer, and then add another piece of wood on there to cut the tops of the teeth. Right? So there's 5 layers of 3/4 inch wood on here. And they gave me the first section. Yeah, I said, but show this, it took forever because I had to wait for the glue to dry each piece I set on there. Then I had to cut it, add another piece, wait for it to dry. It just seemed to take forever to do that. See where we're at here. Then what I decided to do. So that's on my piece sitting on my CNC machine right now. Right? And that's actually probably cutting the first piece out here. It looks like this. Okay. So you go in and you set it down on there and you drill 3 holes in here randomly. Right? And that's to relocate it when you flip it. You drill 3 holes in it randomly like this, okay? And then when you flip it, you have to drill those same 3 holes, except flip to the backside into the spoil board. Then you put pins in there instead of those pins, and that can be located perfectly then for the second side. Okay. So first side, I took the piece down, set it on there, and cut this out, and halfway through. All right. And I did that to all of them, all 8 pieces, all at once. I did one, and the next, and the next, and then came back, flipped them over. Located it on the holes. Come back and I did this little piece in here. Okay. And then I cut it all the way through, except I left what they're called tabs in here. So it doesn't separate from here, because that's what I'm locating everything with. I gotta keep that there. All right, so I got these tabs left in there. Now, when I went to do the second one of these on the second side, I glued this piece on the top side. All right. So now I'm cutting, gluing, and drying. Gluing, cutting, gluing, drying. All right. So I didn't have to wait too much except in between. Okay. And when I put that on there, then I started to cut the second bevel inside of here. And there's where I cut the first side. All right, there's the holes in the spoil board for locating. There's the second side, right, back on there. There's that piece I just put on in order to cut this out here. Second. Okay. And that's the finished part of this one down. All right, now everything was going well, except you have to relocate the Z-axis. 0 stays the same, but you have to relocate the Z because you're putting more stock on top, right? But you have to remember this, once you come down and test it on your board to tell the computer that you just did that. All right, so I went through all that up at the center, and I didn't change it from here. And I didn't tell the computer I changed it. So that's why this piece is in my hand. All right, so I kind of screwed it up on it. All right. Okay. So where we're at here. All right, and this one's telling you, I'm trying to locate it there. All right, I'll go back here. Also, I moved the CNC machine was originally in a smaller workroom. What I have is almost identical tools that I have in my large workshop, but these are all small tools. I've got it as I have a full-size contractor table saw in my big workroom. In my little hobby room, I've got a table saw that only got a 2.5 inch blade on it and a table about this big. That's for model ships that I do and other hobbies and stuff like that. So I have the same set of tools except they're tiny. Right? Ready? So what I did was when I was in that room where the CNC machine was in the living room, chips all over the place. They just throw all over the place. Right? I tried using a dust guard on it to pick up the chips to a vacuum. You couldn't see anything there because you got this big round thing with bristles coming out. You can't see what's going on, you know? So I had one of those, I just didn't like it. So what I did, you can see that the chips are flying around even out there because that's sitting on my table saw now in the big room. Right? And you can see all those chips on there. So what I did is I just took a bunch of foam board and take them together in a box and put a little window in it. And just vacuum. Now vacuum didn't do a thing. But it at least contained the chips inside that area and took the box off and vacuumed it up a lot faster. All right, okay, now, that's second side of the one with the, see, this is the only piece that has this boss end here. All the others are just this movement here. So that's what you're seeing there, is that piece with the boss getting ready, it's being cut out. Yeah. But I also, it's also one of the things that you do, if you want to do a presentation, you have to remember to photograph everything. But you get so busy doing the actual work, you tend to forget to take the pictures. And that's why we jump so fast. Right? So, but the next thing was I did, when I was sitting on this side, no, that was all I did. I finished this, right? Those pieces were done. I set those off to the side. Then what I did was took smaller pieces, set on there, and started cutting out the first set of teeth here. Right, so this is the bottom set, this is the teeth, and it's the lower set, because they're the teeth of this side. Okay. Again, mistake, didn't set the Z. Right? So this is what it looks like when it's done with the other piece sitting on top of it. All right, so when I finished the first one, like this, I glued another block on top of it while I was cutting the next one. So again, same way. Gluing, cut it, cut it. Okay. You actually see that here. This was the piece sitting up on top of it that I was cutting out. That was another mistake. I didn't set the Z right in there. Actually, what was happening when I was getting ready to set the Z, I accidentally hit the router and it moved off the 0. Okay. So that's what caused that problem. This was the first one I did. It goes over there. But that's how I did it. So I made 8 sets of these. I mean, 8 of these. These pieces here, I made 16 of these individual pieces. And then 8 pieces here, 8 pieces in here. All right. Instead of doing 8, these are so small. People cut and decided to make them a little bit bigger. So that's why we did 4, 4, and 4. And then I put it all together, quickly, like to do a segmented roll and to give us more strength. All right, so that's how I got all the pieces cut on the same machine. Well, this is a dry fit. All right, if it's glued together, it's just all sitting there to make sure it all comes together. I didn't have to tweak anything on the sides here to make everything lined up. It actually lined up very well. All of those pieces that I cut lined up very well. I didn't have to tweak anything. I was hoping that's what a CNC machine would do for you. Now I'm starting to put it together. I'm going to walk over here so I can look here. All right. All right, so what I'm doing is gluing the first set of rings around the back here. We've got it turned around now, but here, this first set of rings here, I'm gluing those on. Right, gluing these together, this first set of rings on. That's what this is doing here. So I've got it held down on the top and on the sides and across here, as best way I could with my assembly table here, which is sitting on top of my table saw. Okay. I've waited. I have more times than anybody. Okay. Now I'm putting the second set of rings on.
No, nothing.
Okay, I'm putting the second set of rings on here now, and I decided to use clamps to hold those in like that. Okay. That's just another picture. Oh, I'm putting the center ones in here now, the little ones in the center. Okay, all right. Now this jig here, that's on my 12-inch sander. It's kind of hard to see here, but you can see there's little grooves in here. Okay, I had to figure out how to put those grooves in there. So, what I did was, and then I had to make sure I got it nice and brown, okay? So what it is, I got a piece of plywood here on my 12-inch disc sander. And I had a plug sitting up in the side here that I could set the gear on, so I could rotate it. So I just rotated it against the disc sander and trued up that edge, okay? Then I used the same jig over here. And it's on my, still on the router table, all right? And I'm setting up some other equipment to measure the depth that I want to do on those grooves. And here's the router. That's a 1/4-inch flank cutter type thing in there. Okay, and a sliding cutter. All right, the router's underneath the head there. I got it set at the right height. Okay, this is all the way open, not cutting anything. These pieces here are the exact depth that I want to do, and I'm doing it 32nd at a time. Okay, so I put 2 32nd in. I'll cut a 32nd. Take that one out, put the 1 32nd in, I cut another 32nd, take it out, go all the way up against the side here, I cut my full depth to 3 32nds as I rotate it around. And then I change the height, do it all again, and put the 2 grooves in. And that's when I'm getting ready to cut it here, turn it. I'm holding it down on here to make sure it doesn't go up and down on me. Now I flipped it over, holding down the center here. And now I'm putting these assemblies on the. Just line it all up, put them all down. And then here's where I'm testing it. I just put the pinion gears on there, was pushing around, and then just roll right around. Not a problem. And then I actually took a rod and stuck it through the 2 of them and went around with it. Okay. So freely like that, it turns very nice and very easily. And here it doesn't do that yet. I will confess, I drilled this cross hole into this shaft here, and I thought I was perfectly on center. I thought it was dead centered underneath the that shaft, exactly where I wanted it. Drilled it, we come out looking, you put your fingers in that hole, you can feel about a 1/4 inch difference. It's off center. And that off center, I think, is causing me a bind up here because this gear isn't matched on the center of these gears here. And we're going to bind them. So we're going to have to plug this hole and re-drill it. And so. Yes.
Could you just go back?
Sure.
Yes, how long did it take you to get to there?
Not an hour.
Okay.
You used to have hair.
I have no idea. I just,
You weren't doing that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's on and off, on and off. I told the other group when I did this, a lot of this inspiration of how I did this came to me in dreams. I watched a lot of videos on YouTube on how to do stuff, and then it just, I dream about it, and then I said, I wake up, I got it. And that's, I just go down and do it. But it took a lot of time to make all the drawings, to transfer all of that images up to get the templates for the level too, all that stuff. So it just took a lot of time. I have no idea. I know I would not have had it done for the tool show. I can guarantee that I would not have had it done. So I'm sorry it was canceled, but I was glad at the same time. Okay, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Jerry, if you would have had a 24 or 30-inch CNC machine, and based on all that you've done on this, do you think that gear could have been cut in one piece?
Yes, without a doubt. No question whatsoever.
Would it have been easier? I mean, it's a
Yes, probably, yeah. I think we'd still have to put it together in the segments.
Okay.
But it's like I just glue the segments of rough wood, right? Set it on there, All right, and that's the end of the CNC machine for the morning kind of level. You flip it over and do the other side. So, it could have done the teeth, but it can, yeah, it can cut like this, no problem. It can cut in a circle.
Are those teeth angled? I never even looked at.
Yes, yeah, they're bevel, 15-degree bevel. Yeah, and it could even put the grooves in, but use the same cutter, and you just go around it with it, going on the outside. Same way. Yeah. But I just got the new little one. I wasn't gonna spend another $20,000 for a bigger CNC machine. So.
I got the budget.
Yeah, oh. All right, anything else? All right, now the next thing I had to do is figure out how to build this chuck. Right, this guy. Right, this is an actual working chuck. It has teeth in it, it has springs in it. You tighten this up, you tighten on the drill bit, you loosen up, the drill bit comes out. Okay. This is threaded into here. And then this is, the turn is, it goes on these threads here. Okay. So I have external thread here, internal thread here, external thread here, internal threads here. Okay. And these threads are all five pitch, 5 threads per inch. Okay. This is about 3 inches in diameter. This is about 5.5 inches in diameter inside. All of the threading machines and tools that you find on the lathe currently usually can't do something this big at this pitch. Okay. Now, generally, this is threaded in here, and here. Right? Now, he's got a lathe threading machine, and he was able to do it, but he has a much finer pitch on it. Okay. So I actually wanted a bigger pitch to look more authentic than what the other one was. Right. I got a 5 here, and I think the real one is a 6. The small part is a 6. So, all right. So, what was I going to do there? Let's see where we at.
Lost our audio.
I lost it. Hold on. We're back on now. Is that on? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? What did I do this?
You were flashing a minute ago on your charger there. You were flashing.
This went off on me. Okay, somebody else had forgotten. Okay. All right, let's see where we're at here. Thank you. Okay. This is made up of 2 segmented parts. This is a segmented part. This is a segmented part. And the whole thing's in the front of the actual jaws of the chuck. Okay, the springs. Now to make the jaws, I don't have anything with me other than the jaws that are in there for that. I took it was about 3 by 3 inch square by 3.5 inch long block of wood. And I cut it into 120-degree angle pieces. So I've got 3 pieces. Glued it back together with paper between them. Okay, so it can be separated. Put it on the lathe, and I turned it into outside chuck draw shape. Oh, truncated pump. Okay, broke it apart. All right, now there's the 3 jaws. Right. And I had, I don't know if I have pictures of them. Yeah, okay. So we'll look over here again. Here's one jaw right here. Okay, I've just been broken apart. And it's sitting on a little block jig that I made here. This is like a 90-degree piece here with some supports on it. It's on my drill press. Now I'm going to drill a cardboard hole in the top there to fit the spring. Right. And that's what I had to do to both sides of all 3 jaws. Set up like that to put the springs in. Because you got 3 springs going between the 2 jaws. Okay. And if you want, we can open it up and take the drill out. You can actually see that in the if you want to. Okay, so that's how I made the Chuck Jones. Okay, now, what you see here is base plate. Base plate. Jam chuck, base plate, jam chuck, and a big nut in here. Okay, and that big nut holds this big shaft in that end. Okay? Now this is 1 3/8 diameter, 5 lead shaft. All right, so I'm going to duplicate these threads in those parts. And how I did that was this part here is a head shaft. Okay, shaft's got the shaft's there. This goes into the tailstock. The other end of this sits on here. You'll notice this big diameter out here, not on here. Okay, now this nut is hot glued to this. Okay? Now this is for the internal threads for this part. This happens to be the internal thread for the 3-inch diameter, I believe. Yes. Okay. What you see sitting up here is a metal lathe turning tool, 60-degree turning tool that I cut off, stuck in a square hole, and then put this in here, like this. Like this, and this is threaded into here. Okay, now all I had to do was turn this by hand and cut the threads on the internal part. Because the internal part is sitting on here. All right, it's being held into the jam chuck. Okay, so it's on the jam chuck. This is sitting here. These are my holes for my little rods to turn it. I'm just turning this, and this is giving me the lead. This is giving me the threads. Okay. Now, I made several attempts at it, going through there, backing it up, going through. I didn't want to cut the full thread at one shot. So I had to be able to get this out. Now that's in there, it's pretty deep, and I can't pull it out. All right. So my first thought was, well, I'll get a little pliers somewhere to pull it out. That's what I did. I chipped a tooth. I chipped the carbide. All right. Oh, crap. All right. So what I did was I took a Potawatomi deck of cards. Okay. That could be any deck of cards. Okay. Potawatomi deck of cards, cut a little piece of it, move it onto here. Now it's my tab for pulling my bit out. All right. Okay. Not only that, but how am I going to change the height? All right, because I got to cut deeper, so I got to keep pulling this higher up. I cut a deck of cards into little 1/4-inch squares and dropped a little square in that hole. And when I stuck it in there, it kept raising it up 10 thousandths at a time. All right? And that's what I used to cut the internal threads.
Another dream.
Yeah, another dream. Exactly. Yeah. All right. Okay, so there's the pieces. There's the one we just looked at. All right, there's it, the setup. All right, now this one here is actually doing the big threads inside of this. Here. This piece here, and the big threads inside of that. That's what this is. Same deal. Threaded shaft goes in here. There's my spare hole. They're exactly the same length, just bigger diameter. I actually didn't even need that, because I didn't need this that time, right? Just sitting there like that. For the internal threads, that's what I did there. You see my little rod sticking out to turn it. There's the internal threads. Okay. Now, for the external threads, okay, this is when this comes back into play here. And this way. And then now I have to do the same thing for the external side. And there's the setup for that. Okay, so it's this back on the leg again. Have this on it, a different plate. Okay, this was cut out on the CNC machine. The base of my palm router set in here. Okay, I used a 60-degree bit in the palm router. So this didn't move. Okay, but I had to make the other piece move. All right, again, same type of deal here. You see the setup there. All right. And I reached my hand in this time. And reached my hand underneath it. Manually turn that nut to move that piece down the shaft while the router was sitting on top, cutting the threads.
How long did it take you to get from one end to the other?
5 or 6 hours.
Weird. One. Seemed like that.
See, since the router there wasn't moving, you
Right.
could stop, all right? And it wasn't doing, it wasn't cutting it, it was just sitting there until I turned it.
Right.
So then it would start cutting. See? So I just said, I just turned it. You know, I only cut about maybe that far, not real far. Then backed it off. So we set the bit.
End up with carpal tunnel on your wrist.
So we set the bit to different height and then off again. And so you can see the threads there. There's a finished piece. That's actually this piece here. All right. Okay. Any questions on that? Yeah, good job. All right. Okay. Last thing. How do I put the knurling in here? All right. All right. Something didn't come up to feel that. That's really knurled. Big ass knurling machine. All right. Just a little bit. Japanese hacksaw, a hacksaw, a file, a brush. All right. Those are the tools. All right. Now, I needed to know where to start. You know? So I took a piece of paper, about 1/4 of an inch, maybe 1/2 inch wide. This one, wrapped it around where they met, marked it, measured it. Okay, that was my circumference. Measured it, went out on the computer, drew that out, divided it up into 90 segments. Okay.
How many?
90. There's little tick marks in it, right? Came back out, wrapped it around. Now, these are 2 different pieces. I didn't do them together, they were separate. Okay. So I wrapped it around here, marked all those little tick marks in this side. Made a line across here, lined it up, set it on there, marked all the line tick marks together. Then I took a flexible ruler at a 45-degree angle between 2 tick marks, drew a line. Same thing going this way. Okay. So I've got 90 lines in one direction, 90 lines in the other direction. Okay. Want to see the paper? Well, that was just starting there. Okay, there's my pencil marks. Okay. Now, the first thing it is, I took that Japanese back saw and set it on that line. Right? I very quickly pulled that saw. Right? I felt I could pull it more accurately than I could push. Right? So I was rotating it and pulling it, like we go around there. Right? Got a groove in it with that back saw. I did that maybe 5 or 6 times. Okay. Then I took the hacksaw, which was a little thicker blade. Right? Went in each line, making it a little thicker, open with the groove. Right? Then I took the 60-degree file, put a little shaft on it, and have to burn it. And I just took the brush to pull it off. All right. All right. So 4 pieces, I did the same way, 90 times in each one of them. All right. So I don't know how long
But there's 1576.
Like I said, I only did about 5 or 6 at a time. And then I was just, everything was so stiff,
Yeah.
I had to go sit down for a couple hours.
I know you mentioned before, what kind of wood you got?
Well, this is all pine.
Oh,
Yeah, all pine. But we decided to pine, it was the cheapest, guy said, pine usually.
nice.
Yeah, and if they didn't, they had pine down here. We could have.
I mean, okay, that's.
All right, so there it is together. There's we also have a street road there, we could use what do we call it? A hand or something. I drove it. Yeah. No,
Yankee screw.
thank you, a Yankee screwdriver. It's got the straight bits in there. Okay. So we've got a straight bit like that, and we've got the twist bit. If you come over, you should look at this. This is a beautiful job. This is done by Mr. Moulton. He did a beautiful job on that. He volunteered to do that. So no, we got to do it. It's not make that twist. Okay. All right. There we go. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
We've always talked about the tolerances on this stuff as far as weather moving this. And I know I turned that to the bit, the chuck and that, it seems more fine. I'm just wondering how close that you cut those internal and external threads so that there's enough play in there, so as this thing shrinks and swells.
No, it's not going to shrink this way. I told you that.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
What I did is one of the threads, internal and external, I used wood hardener, Midwest wood hardener, right, to put on it, but just to harden them up, right, and then I wax them very lightly. Was all. Same thing inside the chuck, to get the jaws to move up and down. I put wood hardener in there and then wax. And the chuck jaws is the only thing that I'm aware of. Those are old. That one was a little harder against the soft. Hopefully it's like that. And the springs I got in it. We tried to figure out how to make wood springs that would work. I know you could make one, but I didn't think we could really do it well enough to make it work like that. So those are actual metal springs in there that I got at Ace. Okay. The first set I got fit perfectly, worked perfectly. It was just, they were too, right? We squeezed everything so tight, we couldn't turn it all the way. Right? So I went back, created it again, I got a little smaller screws with a little less tension. And it's easy. I like it. Now, as far as when you say colors and threads, they are very close. I had no good way to measure threads on it. Something like that. Was it working?
It's blinking again.
Okay.
Blinking problem again.
Yeah, we got a blinking problem. We don't know what that problem is. It seems to be a heat related, I think.
Yeah, I think it's cheap.
Yeah. Let's see, can we move it to 2? Try moving it over, move 3 to 2.
We've lost the audio. audio is still not being transmitted. Still no audio.